Greetings, this is Stan once again, and I thank you for your time, for taking time to perhaps think about some of the things that I'd like to talk about. That's very kind of you to do that. I hope it's worthwhile. Most of the time. I try to make it so, but you can't win every time. Perhaps a life lesson. Be nice to win all the time, but we don't. I was thinking the other day because it always comes to mind from time to time, particularly as I'm making a number of changes in my life. And many of you are too. Some of you have been so kind to tell me that I've been a little bit of an encouragement to have some of you kind of make a few steps, to make a few moves that might be good for you. One of the stories that has struck me for years, and I've loved it, and I don't know how many times I've watched it, many times. And later on, I actually have a personal story about the main character, which I may tell you about. Well, the main character is the great Olympic runner, missionary statesman Eric Liddell, and the film is Chariots of Fire, which deals with Eric and his colleagues and his friends in the 1924 Olympics. And perhaps you know the story. Eric is a world-class athlete, and he qualifies for the Olympic team and is ready to run, but then discovers that the game run that he is most involved in takes place on a Sunday. And he's a bit old-fashioned, a lot like me, and he will not run on Sunday. That's the story, and many of you know it, and if you haven't, I really encourage you to take some time to watch the story. There's a lot about life that you can learn from that. But the lesson that always struck me was this. Eric loved to run. He wasn't a very good runner, but he was fast. Now, as he began to compete, his sister Jenny, who loved big brother Eric a great deal, was a little bit concerned because, you see, they had been raised as missionary children back in China, and now they were in Great Britain, and they were studying to become adulthood and get their education. And many of them would do as many of them did. They actually would then return, as their parents' calling was, to be missionaries in China. And Eric is running, and this is causing him to do a lot of competition, and he's winning and getting lots of publicity, and it certainly makes him feel good. And one time Jenny confronts him, and she finally confesses why she's been upset. And it is that he is giving too much attention to his running, and that might distract him from his real mission in life. A lot of times that can happen to us. We like to do things, and that can distract us from some of the things perhaps we should do or are called to do. But Eric had one of the greatest expressions both to his sister who was concerned for him and to all of us. And he says to her, "Jenny, don't you know that God made me fast? And when I run, I feel His pleasure." I confess that just simply saying that line gives me a little bit of the tingles when I first heard that line. And when I run, I feel His pleasure, because that's how God made me. I'd like to capture that in my own life more and more from time to time, and perhaps as I'm at this stage of teaching, perhaps to help more of you to capture that feeling. A lot of us are doing what we have to do, and good for us, and a lot of us are doing what is right, and some of us are doing what we even like. Not nearly enough of us. The rate of engagement of people in their work, surveys tell us, is kind of at an all-time low. People are doing what they have to do, not necessarily what they want to do. Do they do what they love to do? Or can they actually be in a spot where this is how God made me? God made me fast. And when I run, I feel His pleasure. More and more I'm seeking to do those things that when I do them, they're not work anymore. They're not hard anymore. In fact, when I do them, I feel His pleasure. What about you? What pleasure points are you finding in your life and work these days? I'm just going to ask you to think about that, and all the best and blessings to you as you seek the pleasure.